Hello everybody, welcome to Totally Tabled. My name is Shaggy, and today I'm doing something a little bit different. I thought I'd make just a little casual video here, creating something that I think should be in every household, or at least in every gamer's household. And that is the ultimate board game travel kit, featuring this bad boy right here. And if you don't know what this is, then that means that you have not watched my top 10 board game accessories video. And I mean, what are you doing? You gotta go watch that thing, pause this video, open a tab, go watch that one because I describe what this is in detail. I've got links, all that kind of stuff. I'm not gonna repeat myself here, so go watch that video. But in short, this is a photo case. You just crack open this little thing right here, pop that open, and you have 16 of these little guys where, I don't know, I guess, 10 years ago you would put some photos in here. It's 2023, so I don't know what we're supposed to use this for, but if you're a board gamer, you're using it for your card games. In fact, I have over 160 games stored in 10 of these in my closet, and I carry these things everywhere. You can pop one of these in your car, or you can just grab, one or two of these, stick them in your purse or your man bag or whatever, and you're good to go. Now, before we start, I decided to not include any game that I've already done a playthrough for. I want to take this opportunity to talk about 16, new games that I don't really talk about very often. So I'm not going to have Herbaceous on the list. Here it is right here in one of these. I did a full playthrough of this, but you can see it fits nicely in one of these. Also not going to include Birdie Fight. Did a full playthrough of that one as well. And I'm also not going to talk about 4 Northwood. I still have it in its cute little packaging, but you can believe it's going to eventually wind its way in one of these. Did a full playthrough of that recently. All 3 of these could have easily made this list, but I think it'd be more fun to talk about some new stuff, so we are not going to include those. I've also decided to leave all Oink games and all Button Shy games off the list for now. I'm going to come back at the end of this video and talk about those specifically, but obviously those games would also fit in these. Okay, let's get started. We have to empty this out. There we go. We got a blank slate here to start with. Let's just jump in here with our top 16 list. The first game up here is The Mind. Now, as you're going to see, a lot of these games that come in this kind of box, these card games, just fit, boom, right in there. You don't even have to take them out of the box, which is handy. The Mind is a simple cooperative card game that was way overhyped. Nevertheless, I cannot deny how much fun I've had, really in 2 scenarios. One, playing with my kids. This has been a blast. But also as kind of a icebreaker of sorts to begin a game night, especially if there's some new people at the table, people who haven't played a lot of games. You can teach this to anyone. So what is this? Well, it's super simple. You just have a deck of cards that go from what? 1 to 100, I believe? Yeah. And so you're just dealing out that deck of cards, these incredibly ugly cards. I mean, they couldn't be more ugly. So you're just dealing these out, and in round 1, you're only going to get 1 card each. And then as you go through the rounds, you're going to get more and more cards, but, eventually you'll have a hand of cards here. Everyone will have that. And you're trying to play the cards in order, going from lowest to highest. But the trick is, you can't say anything. All you can do is just stare at the other players and use the power of your mind to play the cards in the correct chronological order. Now, that doesn't sound like much of a game, and it's not. But it is a blast when you're able to, oh, I have the 55. You're in the staring contest with someone, you play it, and then they immediately play the 56. And it's like, yeah, we got it just right. Not a game I'd want to play all the time, mind you, but it's a fun one. So there you go. The Mind. That's my number 16. Now, if you thought this list was going to be only card games, I want to disabuse you of that notion right away with my number 15 pick. Pick Amino from The Good Doctor, Reiner Knizia. This is a simple push your luck dice game. And By the way, as you're going to see here, you got to not be afraid to fold up your rule books. A lot of these games are going to require you to fold up your rule books, but, you know, it's a rule book. Forget it. So you can see here, I even have an expansion in here, but in this game, you're going to be taking your 8 dice. You're going to roll them. And you're going to get to set aside all dice of the same number. You pick a number and you can put aside all dice of that number. So maybe I would choose the 5. Then you roll all the ones you haven't set aside. Whoop. And now you have to pick a different number. Or you can pick one of these worms as well. And I might want to pick the worm there because at the end of this, you need to have at least one worm. Ooh, maybe I'd pick the 4s here. Could roll again. And you bust if you're not able to take a unique number. But at the end of all this rolling, you're going to add up your numbers and you're going to take one of these dominoes, these really cool dominoes that have all these numbers that are going to be laid in the middle of the table. You're going to be taking those that match the number that you rolled. And you want to collect all these dominoes with all these different worms on them, which are points. So this is a really simple game, great for families, and like the mine, great for like restaurants and things like that. It doesn't take up a lot of table space. It plays quickly. A good one to play outdoors or if you're camping or something. So that's number 15, Pick Amino. So number 14, I had to go with a classic, and that is No Thanks. Now, as a quick note, if you check this out, plenty of room in here for another small little game right beside it. So you can sometimes double up in these cases, just FYI. But we're not going to do that today. We're just going to talk about No Thanks, a very simple card game where you're collecting these numbered cards, which are from, I think, something like 3 to 35 or something like that. And you have these chips, and you are bidding to not take the cards because the cards are bad. You're going to get points for the cards that you collect. So you're actually bidding chips to not take the card, and eventually someone will decide, okay, I'm going to take the card, and you get to take the chips along with it. And each chip is worth a negative point. So once a card has a certain number of chips on it, it's going to be worth taking just for those points alone, and also the bidding power to avoid taking worse cards. The other little wrinkle here is if you get a run of cards, like if you have an 8, 9, 10, 11, that whole run is only worth 8 points. So sometimes someone's working on a run, and that might be exactly the card that they want, but no one else wants it, so they can just milk it, forcing people to keep putting down chips. Very simple, very fun, very fast. Classic game, No Thanks. Let's keep the classics coming here with For Sale. Yes, classic auction game. So cool, all the money fits in here just fine. And you're auctioning off these properties, spending money trying to get the best properties. And that's part 1 of the game. And then in part 2 of the game, you actually sell your properties for these money cards. Really great auction system where you bid and bid and bid, and eventually you'll pass, take back half of your money, and take the worst property that's on the board. And then the person at the end who gets the best property has to pay all their money. Very clever, quick game, works great with 5 and 6 because you're doing simultaneous card selection. One of my favorite auction games, that is For Sale. I now realize this video is going to be like 2 hours if I don't speed up a little bit. So my number 12 is Archeology, the card game. And this is the new Expeditions. I believe this is the second printing. But this is such a great little set collecting kind of game. And as you can see here, it is filled to the brim in one of these, but hey, it fits. You're exploring these different things, collecting artifacts, which are these cards, trying to get certain sets. You can see a certain number of the same type of card, and then you can turn them in for points. Very rummy-esque. But there's some interesting ways in which you can trade a certain value of cards to get other cards that are sort of in the middle. And there's some different events and things that shake it up. Very simple, but really fun. Kind of an overlooked card game, in my opinion. So check it out. Archeology, the card game. We're keeping those classics coming with the Resistance. Maybe the most classic social deduction game out there. I still love it. Again, we got to fold the instruction booklet, but hey, it's worth it. Everyone knows what the Resistance is. Some players are playing the Resistance, some players are playing spies within the Resistance, and you are going out on missions, trying to succeed. The spies are trying to make you fail those missions, and then everyone's trying to figure out who the spies are. So many social deduction games have come along after this one, but I still think the simplicity and the fun here makes it totally worthwhile, and hey, it's easy to take around in one of these containers. So there you go, the Resistance. Number 11. Number 10 is the absolute fantastic Point Salad. Super streamlined game where you're going to have these cards with these different ingredients, and they're either going to be on their ingredient side or they're going to be on these scoring sides. And on your turn, you're either going to take 2 ingredients or a scoring card, just drafting them from the table, and you got to balance it. If you take too many scoring cards, you won't have enough veggies to actually gain points from them, or if you only have veggies and not enough scoring cards, you won't score very well. Plenty of hate drafting, as you see. Oh, you're going for carrots, are you? Well, I will take that carrot, thank you very much. Stuff like that. Really good, plays super quick, can teach this to anybody. Great one to take to a restaurant. Play this all the time at restaurants. So there you go. Number 10, Point Salad. And let's round this first half of the list off with another classic. We're talking Love Letter. This is certainly the first micro game I was ever aware of. Definitely launched the micro game movement for sure. And look, excitingly enough here, I have 2 different versions of Love Letter in this box. I have my sort of normal version here with this cool, I think the original Japanese artwork, if I'm not mistaken. And then I've got the absolutely fantastic Love Letter Batman edition, which thematically might be the most ridiculous version. I don't know. This is a deduction game of sorts with a tiny small deck of cards with different characters. You have 1 card in your hand. On your turn, you draw a second card, and then you choose one of your 2 cards to play. You get a little special ability that is helping you kind of identify who different people are, maybe knock them out of the round. You want to be the last person standing, or if you get through all the cards, you want to have the highest numbered character. And it's that simple, but it's really all about the carefully crafted different powers of the different characters and how that plays out. It's incredible how much depth and replayability there is in Love Letter. Still play it to this day. And a great one for the travel kit. Number 8 here is such a fantastic little flip and write. It is Silver and Gold. I don't think this gets enough attention anymore. It was big at one point. It's this really cool thing where you get these island cards, and then there's cards that show different shapes that are going to be revealed, and then everyone simultaneously actually gets to write on their card with these dry erase markers. So, you know, you get that L shape, you go, okay, well, I'll cancel off these like that. And you're trying to mark off all the locations on your island in order to score it. And then as you mark off certain things, you get like little coins or other things that you can mark off. Really simple little flip and write, but honestly one of my favorites. And the fact that you can just write on these cards is kind of cool. So anyway, there we go. Number 8, Silver and gold. Next up is one of my favorite trading games of all time, and that is Bonanza. The reason Bonanza works so well is because it actually incentivizes the players to make trades. You're basically doing set collection, trying to collect certain numbers of beans in order to turn them in for points. And so you have a hand of these beans, and you can only plant like 2 different types at a time. And the trick is, on your turn, you can only play the cards that are in the front of your hand. You can't change the order of the cards in your hand. And so if those cards in front of your hands are beans that you're not planting and trying to grow and collect, then you have to get them out of your hand. You want them gone. And so on other people's turns, you're just trying to get rid of those things. You're trying to make trades with those to hopefully get the beans back that you want, but also just to get them out of your hand so you don't have to play them. Absolutely brilliant. So much fun. That's my number 7, Bonanza. Number 6 is one of the best small box 2-player only card games out there, and it is Jaipur. This is such a simple but clever card game, where again, you're basically set collecting these cards in order to get these chips, and you're drafting the cards from the middle of the table, taking them into your hand, and then selling them in sets from your hand in order to get these tokens, which will be worth points. The trick is, rather than just taking one card from the middle, you can actually replace multiple cards from your hand for cards that are in the middle. And there's also these camel cards that you can use that aren't part of your hand limit, but you can use those when making trades. So it's a really clever game about timing, and it's just an amazing game if you haven't checked it out. 2-player only, Jaipur. We're going top 5 now, and we're going with Push. Now, this is a card game that maybe you haven't even heard of, or maybe you've seen it and you kind of passed it by because, well, it, looks a lot like Uno, but you need to stop and take a look at this one. Yeah, you have these Uno-esque kind of cards here, and this is strictly a push your luck game. It's a little hard to quickly describe, but you're going to have this deck. You just shuffle all the cards up, and on your turn, you're going to be making stacks of cards, and you can at most make 3 stacks. And the trick is, each stack can only have 1 color and 1 number, or 1 of each color, 1 of each number. So I can start making my stack. I could put that in the same stack. Ooh, I could put that in there. That's a different kind of card. Ooh, this card could not go into this stack because there's already a 3 there, so I'd have to form a new stack. And you just keep doing this. See, that can't go there, so that could go here, or I could put it in a 3rd stack if I wanted. And you just keep going. That's a reverse. That's also a reverse. And you keep doing this until you decide to stop. And then once you stop, you take one of the stacks and add it to your collection of cards. And then you go around the table and everyone takes a stack if there's one available. If you bust, right, you keep drawing and then you draw something like this, and now I can't put this here, can't put it there, can't put it there. I bust, I don't get to take a stack, and everyone else gets to take a stack. And you're just collecting these cards. They're worth points. You're putting them by color in your little area here. If you get one of these cards, you have to roll this die. And whatever color you roll, you lose all of the cards of that color. It is fantastic. It's easy. I play this with my kids all the time, and I've even played it with my friends in bars just for hours because it's just really entertaining. Honestly, one of the best push your luck games around. Definitely check this one out. My number 5, Push. Number 4 is a game that almost made my top 10 co-op games of all time. That's how much I love this one, and it might be a game you've never heard of. It's called Bel Ratty, or possibly Bel Ratty. Now, this is not an English version of the game. I don't even know if an English version exists, to be honest with you. I have the rules printed out here, just kind of crudely there. And this game is a little hard to explain, to be honest. It's a cooperative deduction game. Using art, you are sort of art dealers, and you have these weird kind of cards. They're just showing like pictures of objects. And you want to have like at least, 4, 5, 6 people, and you're going to separate into 2 groups. And you're going to have 2 of these cards that represent like topics, right? And one group's going to have a hand of these different cards, and they're going to submit some of the cards to correspond to one of these topics. So they might, they might see this card here, this mountain, and they'll be like, in their mind, they're like, okay, I'm going to submit this because, it's cold on top of a mountain. So that works for this topic. And so a bunch of cards are going to get submitted, and then a few cards are going to get submitted at random, right? In addition to the ones that your team has selected. And those are like the forgeries from this art forger named Bel Ratty. He's trying to sneak in his fake art in there. So then when that's done, the other team is going to look at all of these cards, and they're going to try to figure out which ones are the forgeries and which one are coming from the other team and what sort of collection they belong to. It's got a little bit of feel of sort of one of those types of Dixity sort of games, but also a little bit of code names in there because you're trying to get into the head of your cooperative players and make connections, right? Try to figure out these abstract connections, and it's so much fun. I probably didn't end up explaining that very well, but you should definitely check it out. Great cooperative game, Bel Ratty. Number 3, we're back to the classics. We're back to Reiner Knizia. It's High Society. Now, this is specifically the Osprey Games printing with the gorgeous illustrations by Medusa Dollmaker. This is the version you want, and this is why. The art here is out of this world, and this is just a simple auction game. But it's one with 2 fantastic twists. One is that all the players have a deck of money cards. And so when you're bidding with these cards in your hand. You can't just bid anything. You have to bid according to these cards. So maybe one of these cards comes up. I want this 7, so I'm bidding a 3. It goes around, and now I need to bid, maybe a 7. And well, I can't just take this 3 back and play this 8. No, I have to leave that card and I have to add to it with the cards in my hand. So I could play, this 6 and make it a 9, or I could play the 11, with the 8, or I just pass and take my cards back. And if you win it, you lose those cards for the rest of the game. And so as the game goes along, as you win more and more bids, you have fewer cards. That's very clever, and it makes the auctions go by super fast. The other trick is at the end of the game, whoever has spent the most money automatically loses. So you have to be very careful with how you're spending your money to make sure that you haven't spent the most. After that, it's just whoever has, the most points with these cards. But some of the cards are actually negative. So you keep bidding until one person drops out. The first person who passes then gets the negative card, but they get to keep their money and everyone else has to pay. And you have these doublers here, which will double the amount of points you have, and some that will half them. And so it's just a really fun, clever, simple auction game that plays great at 5 players. I'd call this one a Reiner Knizia classic. It's High Society. Number 2 is innovation. Obviously, just base game innovation works here, but this is a game that I consider to be the greatest take-that game in history. Normally don't like take-that card games, but this one is just such a great mix of thinky and chaotic that it just somehow works. You're just going to be playing these cards, drawing cards, playing cards, and adding them to your tableau. you just separate the cards based on color in your tableau. If you get another card of the same color, it goes on top. And you're going to have all of these exposed icons. So like right now I have 5 leaves. And that's a big deal because these cards have actions on them that are tied to these icons. And when you take an action, anyone who has the same number of that icon or more, they also get to take that action. And some of these actions are I demand actions, where anyone who has less of that icon than you do is forced to do something bad. And that's the take that part. So it's take that, but you have an opportunity to defend yourself because you can just make sure that you at least try to collect enough icons so that you don't have less than that person. Easier said than done. The cool thing, though, is as you collect these cards and you start stacking them on top of each other, there are cards that let you splay, which basically means moving the card either to the left or maybe to the right, exposing additional icons underneath. And ultimately, you want to splay them up so that you're getting full advantage of all the different icons that you've collected. The cards are separated by age, so as you go up in the ages, the cards get more and more powerful until the effects are just absolutely bonkers and crazy stuff starts to happen. It's incredibly chaotic and swingy, but it's amazing how every game is different. It's glorious fun. So there you go. That's my number 2 innovation. And my number 1 is going to be a huge surprise. No one else on the planet would probably have this as their number 1, but I actually think this is one of the most underrated games of all time, and that is Greed. This is a game by Donald X. Vaccarino, the designer of Dominion, and it is a card drafting game, a closed draft like 7 Wonders, where you get a hand of cards, you pick one of the cards, and you pass it on. And it's really just pure card drafting. There's very little else here. You are just drafting these cards, trying to get the best combos that are going to lead you to get the most money. And the theme here is it's a little PG-13, I suppose. You are playing as mobsters, and, you're having these businesses, some prostitution, some drugs, some violence. I know that rubbed some people the wrong way, but this is very PG-13 level stuff here. And it plays up to 5 players, but I actually like it best at 2. This is one of the very rare card drafting games that works fantastically well at 2. And one of the reasons I like it so much is, you get a hand of 12 cards to start the game. You pick one. You then pass the deck over to your opponent. You get their deck into your hand, and now you've essentially seen every card that's in the game except for that one card that they selected. So you have almost perfect knowledge of exactly what cards are in the game. And the thing is, when you're playing with 2 players, you're using a very small portion of the deck. You just each have 12 cards. And so it really becomes this cat and mouse game of, oh, what are they going to take? Ooh, they took that card. Okay, I bet you they're going for this. And it has a little bit of that Dominion thing where once you've seen the cards, you can kind of try to identify where the combos are going to be. Some games, there might be awesome combos everywhere, and other games, there might not be that many. Like, there might just not even be that many thugs in the game, and it's all these action cards, and that can really change up the game. Greed is a game that's been unfortunately forgotten, abandoned, and oh man, I really hope that this game comes back, maybe with a new theme and a new form, because it could really use some expansions and things like that to freshen it up. But there you go, that's my number 1... I don't know what you'd call it, small box game that can fit in one of these photo cases. That is Greed. Now, I promised at the end I would talk about Oink games and Button Shy games, so let me do that real quick. Here's a couple of my Oink games here. Got Deep Sea Adventure, A Fake Artist Goes to New York, and the new Scout. All 3 of these fantastic Oink games. And obviously they come in these cute little boxes, and These are some of the few games that I actually want to keep in their boxes because they're so cute and I have them up all displayed and everything. So while I could easily dump these into one of these photo cases, I'd rather not. But here's the best part. Little pro tip. Just take one of these out and look at this. Boom. You can just pop 2 of those suckers right in and you're good to go. So you don't have to worry, you can carry your Oink games in one of these as well. In fact, you can carry 2. Now let's talk about Button Shy, because, you know, they come in these wonderful little wallets. Here's Sprawlopolis, one of my favorites. I got this one jam-packed with all the expansions and everything. Now you can fit really a couple of these in one of these. The problem is if you're going to leave it in the wallet, they just barely don't fit. At least not that way. You got to turn it this way. So you can, you can put 2 of those in there. If you're willing to take it out of the wallet, then it'll easily fit in here. You can even fit 3 or 4 in one of these and go. But here's pro tip number 2. Instead, why don't you just do this? They fit perfectly in between. And so you can put 2 of your favorite Button Shy games in one of these without sacrificing any space. And there we go. We are good to go. We're ready for wherever we're going. We got our nice little handle here. And that's what makes this the ultimate board game travel kit. Well, that was an absolute chaotic mess. I don't even know if this video is watchable or not. I don't know if this helped anybody out there, but I don't know. I had fun talking about 16 games that I usually don't get to talk about on this channel. So if you made it through all of that, then please like the video and subscribe to the channel. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.